You were waiting for me? Okay. These days you are not the first one. दूसरा चैनल, मैं भी उस चैनल का नाम भूल गई थी, लेकिन कोई एक है वो ना कभी कभी यहाँ पर भी आता है। आई थिंक वो आएंगे तो मैं बता दूंगी तुम्हें। ओके, एक कोई है पाकिस्तानी इन्फ्लुएंसर। वैसे तुम्हारा कोई काम का नहीं है वो ना, आई थिंक ब्रो, मैं पूजा कैसे कर सकती हूँ? उस चैनल पे ना वो कुरान के कुछ कुछ आया पढ़ते थे, तो इसलिए मैं वो उसमें जाती थी। अगर हम लोग जाने चले जाकर उन्हें बोला ना कि आया पढ़ दीजिए तो वो पढ़ देते हैं, इसलिए जाती थी। कहाँ से आए ये लोग इतने सारे? 1 मिनट में इसको ना, बिफोर तुम गाली गलौज करो, मैं इसको ना ये कर देती हूँ, सेटिंग्स चेंज कर देती हूँ। द गाय विथ फिल्टर इफेक्ट, या ही हैज अ लॉट ऑफ फिल्टर। तुम भी गए थे क्या उनके चैनल पर? आई डोंट थिंक तुम्हारे लिए कोई हेल्पफुल होगा या फिर कोई अच्छा चीज़ होगा तुम्हारे लिए। तुम एक तो स्टूडेंट हो, वो गेमिंग के बारे में वीडियो बनाते हैं शायद, मुझे भी ठीक से नहीं पता। मैंने उनकी सारी वीडियोस नहीं देखी है, मैं तो सिर्फ उनकी लाइव सेशन अटेंड करती थी, क्योंकि वहाँ पर ना जाकर, ओ ड्यू टू स्कूल, अच्छा अच्छा ओके। तभी तो मैं सोचूं तुम क्यों सबसे पहले नहीं आते आजकल। नहीं बनाते, इसमें बनाते। मैंने आजकल निधि को भी नहीं देखा है यहाँ पर। सौरभ तभी थोड़ा थोड़ा गायब हो रही है। आई थिंक मैंने उनको बुरा ट्रीट किया, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है, अब गिल्टी भी फील हो रहा है। मैं घर पे बैठे बैठे ही कांड कर देती हूँ, क्या ही करूँ मैं? कौन पहले मैं रिवाइज करूँ या फिर मैं पहले पढ़ूँ? गुड आफ्टरनून शुभम। बताओ ना, मैं पहले पढ़ूँ कि मैं पहले वो करूँ, रिवीजन करूँ? पूछती सबसे हूँ, करती मन की हूँ। अच्छा, वो मेरे पढ़ने से पहले ऐसा क्यों हुआ? अब मेरा ना पूरा ध्यान वहीं पर जाएगा। मैं कुछ भी नहीं करती हूँ फिर भी ऐसा हो जाता है। क्यों होता है मेरे साथ ऐसा? क्योंकि तू कुछ नहीं। क्यों हुआ मेरे साथ ऐसा? किसको ही पता क्यों हुआ। चार्ट 1 2 3 4। आज का टारगेट ये है, कंप्लीट कर सकते हैं ना? 7 to 2:30, स्कूल 4 to 9। गुड लक श्री। वैसे मैंने टाइमर पहले ही स्टार्ट कर दिया था 2:45 पे। क्यों मुझे इतना खराब लग रहा है ना? मेरे साथ क्यों होता है वो ऐसी चीजें? मैंने इस बार कुछ किया भी नहीं। इट्स ओके ना। मैं ना पढ़ने आने ही वाली थी और मेरे साथ कुछ हो गया ना, मैं नहीं पढ़ पा रही हूँ क्योंकि मुझे ना वो इंसिडेंट याद आ रहा है। मैं तो कुछ की भी नहीं थी इस बार, तो मैं घर पे ही थी। छोड़ो। गुड लक एवरीवन। Chlorophyll, light, carbon dioxide required for photosynthesis to occur variegatedly. In the presence of light. Leaf is enclosed in a test tube containing some KOH soaked cotton, which absorbs CO2. Some KOH soaked cotton, which absorbs carbon dioxide. Joseph Presley. क्वेश्चन प्रैक्टिस करके देख लेती हूँ ना. फुल मॉक टेस्ट भी दे सकते हैं जैसे आज, लेकिन मैं नहीं दूंगी. In photosynthesis is formed due to oxidative phosphorylation, cyclic photophosphorylation, non-cyclic phosphorylation. Oxygen released in photosynthesis is formed. Carbon isolation during dark reaction. Non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Which of the following is the first compound that accepts carbon dioxide during the dark phase of photosynthesis? NADP, RUBP, ferredoxin, cytochrome. RUBP. Oxygen released in photosynthesis is formed during. Which of the following statement about the event of non-cyclic photophosphorylation is not correct? Photolysis of water takes place. Oxygen is released. Only one photosystem participates. ATP and NADPH are produced. ATP synthesized in the is not correct. Photolysis of water. Oxygen is released. Only one photosystem participates. In C4 plant, CO2 fixation is done by sclerenchyma. C4 plants is done by sclerenchyma, chlorenchyma and hypodermis, mesophyll cells, guard cells. In C4 plants, C3-C4 plants, CO2 fixation is done by sclerenchyma, chlorenchyma and hypodermis, mesophyll cell, guard cells. In C4 plants, CO2 fixation is done by sclerenchyma, chlorenchyma and hypodermis, mesophyll cell. If green plant cells are incubated with oxygen level to water, which of the following molecules will become radioactive when the cells are exposed to light? Water. carbon dioxide, oxygen is IU. Green plant cells are incubated with oxygenated labeled water. Which of the following molecule will become radioactive when the cells are exposed to light? Oxygen is not produced during photosynthesis by cycas, nostoc, green sulfur bacteria. But oxygen is produced during photosynthesis. Oxygen is produced during photosynthesis by cycas, nostoc, green sulfur bacteria, carbon. This is green algae, right? Oh, not produced बोला है तो green sulfur bacteria. With a 6 molecule of carbon dioxide participate when 6 molecule of carbon dioxide participate in photosynthesis, 12 molecules of NADPH and 18 ATP are used. 6 molecule of carbon dioxide participate in photosynthesis. 12 molecule of NADPH and 18 ATP are used of forming one hexose molecule. The photosynthetic light reaction result in the formation of ATP and NADPH. Both assertion and reason are correct, but reason is not correct explanation of assertion. Crunch anatomy is one of the characteristics of the leaves of potato, wheat, sugarcane, mustard, sugarcane. C4 पाथवे सबके मुंह पे ना एक एक गुस्सा मारने का दिल का है, लेकिन मैं क्या ही करूं. In C4 plant, Calvin cycle operates in stroma of bundle-shaped chloroplast, grana of bundle-shaped chloroplast, grana of mesophyll chloroplast, stroma of mesophyll chloroplast. Calvin cycle operates in stroma of bundle-shaped chloroplast, grana of bundle-shaped chloroplast, grana of mesophyll chloroplast. Calvin cycle, bundle-shaped, stroma of bundle-shaped chloroplast. Select the incorrect pair. 2 carbon compounds, aspartic acid, 3 carbon compound PGA, 4 carbon compound malic acid, 5 incorrect, 2 carbon compound aspartic acid. During electron transport system, reduction of NADP to NADPH plus H plus occurs. Oxidation of ADP occurs. Phosphorylation of NADP occurs. Hydrogen of FAD occurs. During electron transport system ETS, reduction of NADP into NADPH plus oxidation of ADP occurs. Phosphorylation, hydrogenation of FADH. Reduction of NADPH into NADP into NADPH. This is this. Which of the following element is activator for both ribulose bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase and phosphoenol pyruvate carboxylase in photosynthetic carbon fixation? MJ2+. For NADPH plus H plus formation, only PS1 is required. Only PS2 is required. Both PS1 and PS2 are required. Only stroma is required. Which of the following is not a product of light reaction of photosynthesis? ATP, oxygen, NADPH, NADH. Z scheme of light reaction. 1, 2, 3, 4. Select the right option having the correct statement. Z scheme of light reaction takes place in presence of PS1 only. No. दोनों ही फोटो सिस्टम चाहिए. Only PS1 is functional in cyclic phosphorylation. Cyclic phosphorylation results into synthesis of ATP and NADPH2. Stroma lamella lacks PS2 as well as NADP. Option C. Stroma lamella lacks PS2 as well as NADP. It is interesting to learn about the simple experiment led to gradual development in our understanding of photosynthesis. Joseph Priestley performed a series of experiments that revealed the essential role of air in the growth of green plants. Priestley, you may recall, discovered oxygen in 1774. Priestley observed that a candle burning in a closed space, a bell jar, soon gets extinguished. Similarly, a mouse would soon suffocate in a closed space. He concluded that a burning candle or an animal that breathed the air both somehow damaged the air. But he placed a main plant in the same bell jar. He found that the mouse stayed alive and the candle continued to burn. Priestley hypothesized as follows: plant restore the air, whatever breathing animals and burning candle removes. Jan Eigenhaus, sunlight. Using a similar setup as the one used by Priestley, but by placing it once in the dark and once in sunlight. Jan Eigenhaus, dark. Once in the dark and once in sunlight. Showed that sunlight is essential to the plant process, that somehow purifies the air fouled by burning candle or breathing animals. Eigenhaus, in an elegant experiment with an aquatic plant, showed that in bright light, small bubbles were formed around the green parts, while in dark they did not. Later he identified this bubble to be of oxygen, hence he showed that it is only the green part of the plant that could release oxygen. Jan Eigenhaus. The green part of plant that could release oxygen. Small bubbles of oxygen around aquatic plant. Sunlight is essential for the plant process that somehow purifies the air fouled by burning candles or breathing animals. Eigenhaus. Aquatic plant showed that bright sunlight but is not renewed. Showed that it is only the green part of the plant that could release oxygen in presence of sunlight. Okay, importance of sunlight. It was not until about 1854 that Julius von Zach provided evidence for production of glucose when plant grows. It was not until about 1854 that Julius von Zach provided evidence for production of glucose when plant grows. Glucose is usually stored as starch. Glucose is usually stored as starch. His latest studies showed that the green substance in plant chlorophyll as we know it now, is located in special bodies, later called chloroplast, within plant cells. He found that the green parts in plant is where glucose is made, and that the glucose is usually stored as starch. Julius one sec. Production of glucose as a starch. Glucose is stored as starch. Let us show that the green substances in plant chlorophyll is located in special bodies later called chloroplast. Priestley, Jan Eigenhaus, Julius von Sack. This one is Julius von Sack. Okay, starch. Glucose is stored in starch. Chlorophyll, chloroplast. He found that green parts in plant is where glucose is made. Green parts in plant is where the glucose is made, and glucose is usually stored as starch. Julius von Sack. Okay. Glucose usually stored as starch. Glucose usually stored as starch. Green parts in plant is where glucose is made. Glucose is made in green parts of plant. Glucose is usually stored. Look at it in chloroplast. Okay. Priestley, Jan Eigenhaus, Julius von Sack. Now consider the interesting experiment done by T.W. Engelmann. 1909. Prism. Okay, T.W. Engelmann. Prism. He split light into spectral components. And then illuminated a green algae, Cladophora, placed in a suspension of aerobic bacteria. The bacteria were used to detect the site of O2 evolution. He observed that the bacteria accumulated mainly in the region of blue and red light. Engelmann, okay, blue and red light prism. Bacteria, Cladophora, and the bacteria. Green algae, Cladophora, bacteria. Recognize, detect O2 evolution site of O2 evolution, okay. He observed that the bacterium accumulated mainly in the region of blue and red light of the split spectrum. He observed that the bacteria accumulated mainly in the region of blue and red light of the split spectrum. The first action spectrum of photosynthesis was thus described. It resembles roughly the absorption spectrum of chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Now consider the interesting experiment done by T.W. Engelmann. Using prism, he split light into its spectral components and then illuminated a green algae, Cladophora, placed in a suspension of aerobic bacteria. The bacteria were used to detect the site of oxygen evolution. He observed that bacteria accumulated mainly in the region of blue and red algae of a split spectrum. He observed that the bacteria accumulated mainly in the region of blue and red algae. He observed that the bacterium accumulated mainly in the region of blue and red algae of the split spectrum. At a first action spectrum of photosynthesis was described. A first action spectrum of photosynthesis was thus described. It resembles roughly the absorption spectrum of chlorophyll AB. T.W. Engelmann, prism, algae, Cladophora, bacteria, site of O2, detect the site of O2 evolution, accumulated mainly in the region of blue and red light. Resembles roughly the absorption spectrum of chlorophyll A and B. By the middle of the 19th century, the key feature of plant photosynthesis were known the middle of the 19th By the middle of the 19th century, the key feature of plant photosynthesis were known, namely, the plant could use light energy to make carbohydrates from carbon dioxide and water. The empirical equation representing the total process of photosynthesis for oxygen evolving organism was then understood as. In the middle of the 19th century, the key feature of plant photosynthesis were known. Plant could use light energy to make carbohydrate from carbon dioxide and water. The empirical equation representing the total process of photosynthesis for oxygen evolving organism was then understood as CO2 plus H2O, light, sugar plus oxygen, carbon dioxide, water and light. Represents carbohydrate, glucose, a 6-carbon sugar. A milestone contribution to the understanding of photosynthesis was that made by a microbiologist, Cornelius Van Mil, who based on his studies of purple and green bacteria, demonstrated that photosynthesis is essentially a light-dependent reaction in which hydrogen from a suitable oxidizable compound reduces carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. Based on his studies of purple and green bacteria. Demonstrated that photosynthesis is essentially a light-dependent reaction. Photosynthesis is essentially a light-dependent reaction. Cornelius Van Mil, purple and green bacteria demonstrated that photosynthesis is essentially a light-dependent reaction in which hydrogen from a suitable oxidizable compound reduces carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. Cornelius Van Mil, based on the studies of purple and green bacteria, demonstrated that photosynthesis is essentially a light-dependent reaction. Cornelius Van Mil, based on his studies of purple and green bacteria. Studies in purple and green bacteria demonstrated that photosynthesis is essentially a light-dependent reaction. Purple and green bacteria demonstrated that photosynthesis is essentially a light-dependent reaction in which hydrogen from a suitable oxidizable compound reduces carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. Oxidize hydrogen from suitable oxidizable compound. In green plants, water H2O is the hydrogen donor and is oxidized to O2. Water oxidized to O2, hydrogen donor. Some organisms do not release O2 during photosynthesis. When H2S instead of hydrogen donor for purple and green sulfur bacteria, H2S instead of hydrogen donor for purple and green sulfur bacteria, the oxidation product is sulfur or sulfates depending on organism. And not O2. Hence, he inferred that the O2 evolved by green plants comes from H2O, not from carbon dioxide. Why do I get irritated so easily? In green plants, water is a hydrogen donor and is oxidized to O2. Some organisms do not release oxygen during photosynthesis when H2S, hydrogen sulfide. Instead, is the hydrogen donor for purple and green sulfur bacteria. The oxidation product is sulfur or sulfate, depending on the organism and not O2. Hence, he inferred that O2 evolved by green plants comes from water, not from carbon dioxide. Oxygen evolved by green plants comes from H2O, not from carbon dioxide. This was later proved by using radioisotopic techniques. The correct equation that would represent the overall process of photosynthesis is therefore 6CO2, 12H2 light, 6H12O6, 6H2O, 6O2. Glucose O2 released from water. This was proved using the radioisotope technique. Note that this is not a single reaction but description of multiple process called photosynthesis, multi-step process. Photosynthesis is multi-step process, okay? Can you explain why 12 molecule of water as substrate are used in the equation given above? मैं चाय भी लेके आई थी लेकिन मुझे पीने का दिल ही नहीं किया उस इंसिडेंट की वजह से। ठंडा भी हो गया होगा ये। बादल आ गए मेरे सामने। Where does photosynthesis takes place? You would recollect from previous unit that mesophyll cells in the leaves have a large number of chloroplasts. Usually, chloroplasts align themselves along the walls of mesophyll cell such that they get optimum quantity of incident light. When do you think the chloroplast will be aligned with their flat surface, parallel to the walls? You have studied the structure of chloroplast in chapter 8. Within the chloroplast, there is membranous system consisting of grana, the stroma, lamella, and matrix. Stroma. There is a clear division in layer within the chloroplast. The membrane system is responsible for trapping the light energy and also for synthesis of ATP and NADPH. The stroma, enzymatic reaction synthesize sugar. Light reaction, photochemical reaction, the latter are not directly light driven but are dependent on the product of the light reaction, ATP and NADPH. Hence, to distinguish the latter, they are called by convention as dark reaction, carbon reactions. However, this could not be to mean that they are darkness or that they are not light dependent. Chloroplast based after it. Green chloroplast. Okay. You are definitely right. Photosynthesis does take place in green leaf of plant, but does so also in the other green parts of the plant. Mesophyll cell in leaf have large number of chloroplasts. Mesophyll cell, large number of chloroplasts. Usually chloroplasts align themselves along the wall of mesophyll cell, such that they get optimum quantity of the wall of mesophyll cell, such that they get the optimum quantity of incident light. When do you think the chloroplast will be aligned? With the flat surface parallel to the wall. Winter. Perpendicular to the incident light. Day. Within the chloroplast, there are membranous system consisting of grana. The stroma lamella. Okay, chloroplast. Grana. This is grana, right? Membranous system consisting of grana and stroma lamella and matrix stroma. There is a clear division of liver within the chloroplast. The membrane system, grana. The membrane system, okay, membranous system consisting of grana. The membrane system is responsible for trapping the light energy and also for synthesis of ATP and NADPH. ये लोग कितना शो करते हो? The membrane system is responsible for trapping the light energy and also for synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Membrane system. Grana is responsible for trapping the light energy. Okay, grana is responsible for trapping the light energy and also for synthesis of ATP and NADPH. In stroma, excuse me, in stroma, the membrane system. We have studied the structure of chloroplast. Membranous system. Chloroplast. Membranous system consisting of grana, stroma lamella, matrix stroma. Light energy and synthesis of ATP. Consisting of membrane system consisting of grana, stroma lamella, and matrix stroma. Matrix stroma. There is a clear division of liver within the chloroplast. There is a clear division of liver within the chloroplast. Division of liver within the chloroplast. Membrane system is responsible for trapping membrane system. Trapping the light energy and also synthesis of trapping the light energy also for the synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Trapping light energy. Trapping the light energy, synthesis of ATP and synthesis of NADPH. NADPH. Trapping light energy, synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Trapping the light energy and also for the synthesis of system is responsible for synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Membrane system, grana, the stroma. Enzymatic reaction, synthesize sugar, which in turn forms starch. The former set of reaction, since they are directly light driven, are called light reaction. Light reaction. Directly light driven. Photochemical reaction. The immune system is responsible for light energy and also for synthesis of ATP and NADPH. In stroma, enzymatic reaction synthesize sugar. Enzymatic reactions synthesize sugar, which in turn form starch. The former set of reaction, since they are directly light driven, light reaction or photochemical reaction. The later are not directly light driven but are dependent on the product of light reaction, ATP and NADPH. Hence, to distinguish the latter, they are called by convention as dark reaction, carbon reaction. However, this should not be construed to mean that they occur in darkness or that they are not light dependent. Division of liver into chloroplast of the membrane system, trapping of light energy, synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Chloroplast. You would recollect from previous unit that mesophyll cells in the leaves have large number of chloroplasts. Note. Mesophyll cell. Oops. Matrix stroma. enzymatic reaction. Synthesize sugar. Enzymatic reaction. Synthesize sugar, which in turn forms starch. Enzymatic reaction. Synthesize sugar. Sugar. Starch. STARCH starch. The former set of reactions, since they are directly light driven, okay. Enzymatic reaction synthesize sugar, which in turn forms the starch. Not directly light driven. Directly light driven. Dependent on the light. Not directly light driven, okay. Division of liver in chloroplast. Membrane system grana. Trapping light energy. Synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Light reaction directly light driven. Light reaction directly light driven. Photochemical reaction light reaction. Trapping light energy. Synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Directly light driven. Photochemical reaction light reaction. Okay, stroma. Enzymatic reaction synthesize sugar from starch. Sugar form starch. Enzymatic reaction synthesize sugar form starch dependent on the product of light, ATP and NADPH. Dark reaction, not directly light driven. Enzymatic reaction synthesize sugar from starch. Sugar from starch dependent on the product of light, that is ATP and NADPH. Dark reaction, not directly light driven. फर्स्ट स्लॉट कंप्लीट हो गया. वैसे मैंने स्लॉट मेंशन नहीं किया था ना. नहीं किया था. शुभम ब्रेक लोगे? श्री आर यू देयर? अगर हो तो बताना. हाँ, ब्रेक लोगे कि नहीं, क्योंकि मेरा ब्रेक लेने का दिल नहीं है. मुझे ज़्यादा नहीं पता. कर दूँ स्लॉट टू स्टार्ट? बोलो. स्टार्ट कर दो सेकंड स्लॉट. ओके, फिर मैं सेकंड स्लॉट को पिन कर दे रही. ओके, वैसे मैंने मेंशन नहीं किया है. 50 मिनट का होता है एक स्लॉट. जो भी न्यू है उनके लिए बता दे रही हूँ. chromatographic enzymatic reaction, synthesize sugar. Sugar forms starch. Okay, returns a division of liver in chloroplasma, membrane system, grana. Okay, trapping light energy, synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Light reaction, directly light driven. Photochemical reaction, light reaction. Photochemical reaction, light reaction. Trapping light energy, synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Light reaction, directly light driven. Photochemical reaction. Light reaction is also called photochemical reaction. Stroma matrix. Enzymatic reaction, synthesize sugar. Sugar form starch dependent on the product of light, ATP and NADPH. Dark reaction, not directly light driven. Dark reaction, carbon reaction. Carbon reaction, light dependent. The outer membrane, inner membrane, stroma, lamella, grana, membranous system. Membranous system. System. Stroma, ribosomes, granules, lipid droplets, starch granule, ribosomes, stroma, grana, stroma lamella, inner membrane, outer membrane, inner membrane, grana, stroma lamella. These are lipid droplet, starch granule, lipid droplet, ribosomes. These are ribosomes. Stroma, ribosomes, starch granule, lipid droplet. Okay. Outer membrane, inner membrane, grana, stroma lamella, ribosomes, starch granule, lipid droplet. How many types of pigments are involved in photosynthesis? Paper chromatography. We can look for an answer to this question by trying to separate the leaf pigments of any green plants through paper chromatography. We can look for an answer to this question by trying to separate the leaf pigment by any green plant. We can look for an answer to this question by trying to separate the leaf pigment of any green plant through paper chromatography. Leaf pigment of any green. Separate leaf pigment. Paper chromatography. A chromatographic separation of the leaf pigment shows that the color that we see in leaf is not due to single pigment but due to four pigments: chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B. Green in chromatogram. Yellow green, xanthophyll yellow, carotenoids yellow to yellow orange. Paper chromatography. Types of pigments. Types of pigments. Paper chromatography. Chlorophyll A, bright or green in chromatography. Brighter blue, green in chromatography. Yellow green, xanthophyll yellow. To yellow orange. Pigments are substances Pigments are substances that have an ability to absorb light at a specific wavelength. Can you guess which is the most abundant plant pigment in the world? Pigments are substances that have the ability to absorb light at a specific wavelength. Pigment, okay. Pigments. Pigments. Substances that have an ability to absorb light. Pigments are substances that have an ability to absorb light at specific wavelengths. Can you guess which is the most abundant? Okay, pigments are substances substance that have an ability to absorb light at a specific wavelength. Can you guess which is the most abundant plant pigment in the world? Let us study the graph showing the ability of chlorophyll A pigment to absorb light of different wavelength. Study the graph showing the ability of chlorophyll A pigment to absorb light of different wavelength. Of course, you are familiar with the wavelength of visible spectrum of light as we view. Will be इतना गुस्सा आता है ना, लेकिन फिर भी करना पड़ता है. Chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotenoids. Absorption of light by chloroplast pigment. Okay, 400 wavelength, 700 nanometer. School highest wavelength. Red को. The side red, the side blue. आई थिंक ये नेटवर्क अब स्टेबल नहीं रहेगा. मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकती. आई थिंक मैं वाईफाई से ही कनेक्ट हूँ. हाँ हूँ तो फिर भी. Pigment are substances that have an ability to absorb light at a specific wavelength. Okay. The graph showing the ability of chlorophyll A pigment to absorb light of different wavelength. Okay. You 11 point figure 11.3a. Graph showing the absorption spectrum of chlorophyll A, B and the carotenoid. Absorption spectrum. Action spectrum. Rate of photosynthesis. Rate of photosynthesis action spectrum measured by O2 release. Absorption of light by chloroplast. Am I visible now? I think I am, right? Yeah. मैंने वाईफाई से डिस्कनेक्ट कर दिया और ये ना जियो वाला डेटा यूज़ कर रही हूँ. विजिबल टाइमर को थोड़ी देर पॉज कर लेते हैं ना. पता है आज कितना खराब इंसिडेंट हुआ था. मैं तब बोल भी नहीं पाई क्योंकि बहुत सारे लोग थे. अभी कोई नहीं है ना, इसलिए मैं अभी बोल पा रही हूँ. यस ब्लर. ओके, जियो का नेटवर्क इतना अच्छा नहीं होता है तो क्या ही कर सकते हैं. अगर मैं वाईफाई से कनेक्ट हो जाऊंगी तो फिर से हो जाएगा, ब्लैक हो जाएगा ना. जस्ट वेट. अच्छा इंटरनेट ही नहीं है क्या? नहीं है तो अब lazy person. Am I visible now? Okay. तो मैं वो दिन वाली इंसिडेंट बताने वाली थी. When did you woke up? I got up. एग्जैक्ट तो नहीं पता ना विश्वा. आई थिंक 11:30 के आसपास. मैं कल ना 3 पे जाने के बाद भी तो सोई नहीं. मैंने थोड़ा स्क्रॉल किया. आई थिंक 5:30 हो गया था. थोड़ा नहीं, बहुत स्क्रॉल किया. आई थिंक वाईफाई फिर से जाएगा, अनस्टेबल ही दिख रहा है मुझे। चलो मैं टाइमर स्टार्ट कर दे रही हूँ, ओके? फिर से जो भी पढ़ रहे हो गुड लक, जो नहीं पढ़ रहे हो उसको क्या ही बोलूँ। Now look at the figure B showing the wavelength of maximum photosynthesis occurring plant at which maximum photosynthesis occurs. Spectrum. Can you see that the wavelength at which the maximum absorption of chlorophyll A and A, that is the blue and red resin, maximum absorption of chlorophyll A. Absorption by chlorophyll A. Maximum absorption by chlorophyll A. Maximum absorption by chlorophyll A. Shows higher rate of photosynthesis, blue and red resin. Maximum absorption by chlorophyll A. We can conclude that chlorophyll is chief pigment associated with photosynthesis. Chlorophyll is chief pigment associated with photosynthesis. Chlorophyll A. Wavelength at which there is maximum absorption by chlorophyll A. Maximum absorption by chlorophyll A, that is the blue and red resin. So there is a complete one-to-one overlap between absorption spectrum and synthesis. Red resin, most of the photosynthesis of such blue and red resin, okay. Most of the photosynthesis, okay. Okay. Spectrum, some photosynthesis does mix in the other at the other wavelength of the visible spectrum. Let's see how this happens. Though chlorophyll is the mesopigment responsible for trapping light, other thylakoid pigment like chlorophyll B, xanthophyll, and carotenoid is the mesopigment trapping light. Other thylakoid pigment like chlorophyll B, xanthophyll, and carotenoid, which are accessory pigment. Chlorophyll B, xanthophyll, and carotenoids. Chlorophyll is the mesopigment. Absorb light and transfer to chlorophyll A. Though chlorophyll is the mesopigment responsible for trapping light, other thylakoid pigment like chlorophyll B, xanthophyll, and carotenoid, which are accessory pigment, also absorb light and transfer the energy. Transfer to chlorophyll A. Transfer energy to chlorophyll A. Indeed, they are not enable. Okay, indeed, they not only enable a wider range of pigments to be utilized for photosynthesis. Utilization of wider range of wavelength. Utilization of wider range of wavelength. incoming light to be utilized for photosynthesis. Okay, they not only enable a wide range of wavelength of incoming light to be utilized, let's know wide range of wavelength of incoming light, wide range of wavelength for photosynthesis. Protect chlorophyll from photooxidation. Photooxidation. From photooxidation. Chloroplast. Light reaction, electron transport. Change repeat. Chloroplast membrane system, grana, stroma, lamella, and matrix stroma. Chloroplast membranous system, membrane system, grana, stroma, lamella, and matrix stroma. Division of lever in chloroplast, membrane system, grana, trapping light energy, membrane system, grana, trapping light energy, and the synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Synthesis of ATP, this is by membranous system, grana. A synthesis of ATP and NADPH, trapping of sunlight. Trapping of light energy, synthesis of ATP and NADPH. This is also known as light reaction, which is also called photochemical reaction. Photochemical reaction, light reaction, directly light driven. Stroma, matrix, enzymatic reaction for the synthesis of carbohydrate. Enzymatic reaction synthesize sugar from starch. Chloroplast with, right? Okay, sugar from starch. These are also known as dark reaction or carbon reaction. Dark reaction or carbon reaction. They depend on the product of light reaction, like ATP and NADPH. Dependent on the product of light reaction, that is ATP and NADPH, but they are called dark reaction since they are not directly light driven. Carbon reaction. Types of pigment: chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, xanthophyll, carotenoid. Paper chromatography, separation technique. Separation technique for pigments: brighter or blue green. Bright or blue green. Chlorophyll A, bright or blue green, means a pigment. Chlorophyll B, yellow green, xanthophyll yellow, carotenoids yellow. ऐसा लग रहा है कि मैं हुल्फी बन जाऊंगी, इरिटेड हो के. Chlorophyll B, yellow green, xanthophyll yellow, carotenoid yellow orange, yellow to yellow orange, yellow to yellow orange. Okay, bright or blue green, yellow green, yellow to yellow orange. Chlorophyll B, xanthophyll, and chlorophyll B, xanthophyll, and carotenoids are accessory pigment. Thylakoid accessory pigment. Accessory pigment. They helps in protecting chlorophyll A from photooxidation. Helps in protection. Protect chlorophyll A from photooxidation. Enable the utilization of wider range of wavelength for photosynthesis. They absorb the light energy and transferred it to chlorophyll A. Absorb light, transfer energy to chlorophyll A. Utilization of wider range of wavelength of light for photosynthesis. Protect chlorophyll A from photooxidation. Major pigment: chlorophyll. Major pigment for photosynthesis. Pigment: substances that have the tendency to absorb light energy, that have an ability to absorb light. Absorb light at specific wavelength. Pigment: substances that have an ability to absorb light at a specific wavelength. Okay. Chief pigment: major pigment associated with photosynthesis. Chief pigment associated with photosynthesis is chlorophyll A. Chief pigment associated with photosynthesis. Chief pigment associated with photosynthesis, chlorophyll A. Absorption spectrum. Absorption of light at different wavelength by chloroplast pigment. Absorption of light by chloroplast pigment. Absorption spectrum. Action spectrum. Rate of photosynthesis by measuring the O2 release. Measured by O2 release. Okay, maximum absorption of chlorophyll E, blue and red region. High rate of photosynthesis, blue and red region. Most of the photosynthesis. Just light reaction. Formation of ATP and NADPH. मैं ना क्या करूँ, फेंक दूँ? कितना ज़्यादा आवाज़ आ रहा है, वो इरिटेटिंग. Charge only. Occurs in light reaction. Light reaction occurs in mesophyll cell. Light reaction occurs in mesophyll cell. कहाँ गया? Not mesophyll. Mesophyll में तो होता है. Mesophyll cell में chloroplast हुन्छ. Occurs in membranous system. Grana. Grana. Membranous light reaction occurs in membranous system. Grana. Occurs in membranous system. Grana. Light reaction occurs in membranous system. Grana. Light reaction occurs in membranous system. Grana. Mesophyll cell. Chloroplast. Liquid. Light reaction. Light reaction occurs in membranous system. Grana. Liquid. Leaf. Chloroplast. Mesophyll cell. Light reaction. कंफ्यूज ही हो जाती हूँ मैं. The the light reaction or photochemical phase include light absorption, absorption of light, water splitting, oxygen release, formation of high energy chemical intermediates ATP and NADPH. Steps occurring in photochemical phase or light reaction. Absorption, absorb. Several conflicts are involved in this process. To describe photochemical light harvesting complex. Several protein complexes are involved in this process. Pigments are organized into discrete photochemical light harvesting complex. मैं इसको ना क्या करूं? देखो मैं पागल हो जाऊंगी, ये इतना ज़्यादा काम करेगा तो ना बात बात पे। PhD Photosystem 2. These are named in the sequence of the discovery. First discovered. Discovered. Cells are made up of hundreds of pigments. Each photosystem has all the pigment except one molecule of chlorophyll. Each photosystem has all pigment. Forming a light harvesting system also called antenna. These pigment helps to make photosynthesis more efficient by absorbing different wavelengths of light. The single chlorophyll molecule forms the reaction center. The reaction center is different in both photosystems. The reaction center, chlorophyll E, absorption has absorption peak at 700. P700 nanometer. P700. इतना गुस्सा आता है, मैं क्या करूं? म्यूट कर दो। किसको म्यूट कर दूं? वो नोटिफिकेशन नहीं है, कोई टेक्स्ट नहीं कर रहा है। मैंने ना वो किया है, क्या बोलते हैं, फ़ोन को चार्ज किया है ना, इसलिए जब मैं बुक से ना उसको डेटा केबल को हिला देती हूँ ना तो तब साउंड आ रहा है। मुझे बहुत गुस्सा आ रहा है, मैं बाहर जाती हूँ। हाँ वैसे ना ये हम लोगों का कौन सा स्लॉट कवर हो गया है? स्लॉट 2 कवर हो गया है। मैं लिख भी देती हूँ, इसको भी निकाल देती हूँ। मैं क्या करूँ? इतना गुस्सा आता है मुझे। इट्स ओके, इट्स ओके। slot 2 done. टेन मिनट का ब्रेक ही कोई लिख दो, मैं पिन कर दूंगी आके। मुझे ऐसे ही लोगों से बात करना ज़्यादा पसंद नहीं ना, लाइक जिससे मैं बहुत ज़्यादा जानती हूँ वो उससे भी मुझे बात करना पसंद नहीं ना, लेकिन फिर जिससे लोग भी आके बात करते हैं मुझे इतना गुस्सा आता है ना, लेकिन फिर भी बात करना पड़ता है उन लोगों के साथ। मुझे बिल्कुल नहीं पसंद, बिल्कुल नहीं पसंद। ऑनलाइन तो ठीक है, फिर भी मैं इतना हंस लेती हूँ, बोल लेती हूँ ना, लेकिन कोई मेरे सामने आके बोले ना, मुझे बिल्कुल नहीं पसंद। वो लोग मेरा मूड ही खराब कर देते हैं। मैं अपनी बेस्ट फ्रेंड को अवॉइड कर रही हूँ और ये लोग आ जाते हैं कहीं ना कहीं से। आई एम नॉट वरिंग, आई एम जस्ट इरिटेटेड विद देम। मुझे ना ऐसे पकड़ के ना इन लोगों को चाटा लगाने का दिल करता है, लेकिन मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकती। स्पेशली ये ओल्डर जनरेशन होता है ना, इन लोगों को पीट देने का दिल करता है, लेकिन वो बड़े हैं तो क्या ही कर सकते हैं। वैसे मैं इंट्रोवर्ट नहीं हूँ, इससे अभी के टाइम पे तो बिल्कुल नहीं पसंद, बिल्कुल नहीं। वंस यू डू इट दे विल नॉट टॉक देन। क्या करना है वैसे मुझे? तुम लोग कितने आलसी लोग हो। मैंने बोला था कि ब्रेक लिख दो, मैं यहाँ पर पिन कर देती हूँ, लेकिन तुम लोग इतने आलसी हो, स्पेशली यू विश्वा। तुम तो हो फिर भी नहीं लिखा, आलसी इंसान। इससे ब्रेक खत्म होने ही वाला है, मुझे गुस्सा नहीं करना चाहिए, फिर ना जो पढ़ती हूँ वो समझ में नहीं आएगा। आई भी पेन कर रहा है थोड़ा थोड़ा। आई डोंट हैव एनी टाइम टेबल। संगीता, हाय संगीता। आई नो। Okay, so Sangeeta is also preparing for NEET. 39 सेकेंड्स है, हम लोग ब्रेक को ऑफ कर दे क्या? I can see a lot of things in your channel. So you are basically from Assam, right, Sangeeta? You have written that in your short. फोटोसिंथेसिस में कहाँ पर है आप अभी? दीप कुमार, तुम क्या पूछना चाहते हो उस क्वेश्चन से? वैसे ही मैं एक इतना ज़्यादा मैंने फिर 60 मिनट का लगा दिया। मेरा मतलब ये था कि दीप, तुम ना जो क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हो मुझे अच्छे से समझ में नहीं आ रहा है। एक तो मेरा दिमाग ऑलरेडी बहुत गर्म हो गया है ना वो बाहर वाले इंसिडेंट से। जब जब बाहर निकलती हूँ ना कुछ कांड हो जाता है, इसलिए ना अंदर ही दरवाज़ा बंद करके मरने का दिल करता है। इट्स ओके माँ, इट्स ओके। ये कौन सा स्लॉट है? स्लॉट 3 है, ओके। मेरा बिल्कुल रोने का दिल कर रहा है, लेकिन ना मैं कंट्रोल कर रही हूँ। तो तुम्हारा क्वेश्चन से मुझे और ज़्यादा गुस्सा आया। मुझे ऐसे लोग बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं जो मुझसे ना सवाल पूछते रहते, वो भी बकवास बकवास। अगर तुम्हारा मतलब ये है कि मैं अभी रिवीजन में कहाँ पहुँची हूँ ना, तो मैं लाइट रिएक्शन में पहुँच गई हूँ। तुम अपना करो ना, मेरा क्यों देखते रहते हो? मैंने तो ये बार कितनी बार कर लिया है, ये चैप्टर कितनी बार कर लिया है। वैसे भी मैं ड्रॉपर हूँ, वो भी फर्स्ट टाइम ड्रॉपर नहीं हूँ। मेंटल हेल्थ की ऐसी की तैसी। चलो कोई ना, होता रहता है। बट ओके, मैं फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाती हूँ। आई एम सॉरी अगर मैं चिल्लाई तो। इसको भी निकाल देती हूँ, ये बहुत ज़्यादा साउंड कर रहा है। चार्ज कितना है? 34 ही है। विश्व, either you can wait till 2026 or you can start right now. It's your choice. So whatever you want to do, you can do it. When the chemical compound dissolves in the photochemical reaction. तुम भी सेम चैप्टर कर रहे हो क्या दीपक? आई विश ना ये ओल्डर जनरेशन सब लोग खत्म हो जाए दुनिया से, मेरी अम्मा को छोड़ के, तुम सबके अम्मा को छोड़ के, तुम सबके के पापा को छोड़ के। जो जो मुझे परेशान कर रहे हैं ना, ये सब मर जाए दुनिया से। क्या बोल रही है माँ? मैं टाइमर स्टार्ट कर रही हूँ ओके, लेकिन ना ये सेशन मैं अच्छे से नहीं कर पाऊंगी। मुझे पता है मेरा दिमाग बहुत घूमेगा। ना ये प्लेन शीट है अंडा। अब जब जब मेरे दिमाग में गंदा वाला थॉट आएगा जो कि पढ़ाई से रिलेटेड नहीं है, मैं इसके अंदर एक डॉट बनाऊंगी ओके, गोल से। तो देखते हैं 50 मिनट के अंदर मैं कितना डॉट बनाती हूँ। वो मेरी नेगेटिव थॉट होगी, हम लोग काउंट करेंगे ओके, ऐसे करके। मैं इसको यहाँ पर रख देती हूँ। मैं जब जब इसको पकड़ूंगी ना, तो तुम समझ जाना मेरा दिमाग कहीं घूम रहा है। बस कर पगली, अब रुलाएगा क्या? रुलाएगी क्या? वो रुलाएगा तो मेल को बोलते हैं। गुड लक एवरीवन। वैसे ना मुझे किसी की सजेशन नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि मुझे ऑलरेडी पता है कि जो मैं कर रही हूँ मेरे लिए बेस्ट है। तुम लोगों को मेरे बारे में कुछ नहीं पता। कोई कोई लोग आ जाते हैं ना, ऐसे करते हैं, केमिस्ट्री और फिजिक्स भी करो ना। उससे कल आया था एक, पता नहीं क्या था उसका नाम, समथिंग ओताकू, आई थिंक एनीमे फैन था वो। तो वो बोल रहा था कि फिजिक्स एंड केमिस्ट्री करो, उसका ना बहुत अच्छा नंबर आया सिर्फ फिजिक्स और केमिस्ट्री करके ना। तो उसने बोला कि उसका 310 समथिंग आया। तो उसको मैं आंसर दे सकती थी, लेकिन मैंने उसको इग्नोर किया। बायो का अलोन 360 है ना वेटेज, तो तुम सब लोग चुप करो, मुझे पता है मैं जो कर रही हूँ मैं सही कर रही हूँ। तुम अपना करो विश्वा, खुद का तो देखती नहीं। गेट आने उसमें तो हगना ही है तुम्हें, अपना पढ़ो। मैं मैं चैट्स को ना ऑफ कर देती हूँ, वरना मैं सबको डांटती रहती हूँ अपनी फ्रस्ट्रेशन निकालने के लिए। गुड लक एवरीवन। The light reaction of the photochemical phase include light absorption, water splitting, oxygen release, and the formation of high-energy chemical intermediate ATP and NADPH. Several protein complexes are involved in the process. The pigments are organized into two discrete photochemicals: light harvesting complex (LHC) within the photosystem 1, PS1, and photosystem 2, light harvesting. The pigments are organized into two discrete photochemical light harvesting complex. There are two types, okay? Named in the sequence of their discovery. These are named in the sequence of their discovery. Okay, they are not in the sequence in which they function during the light reaction. Photosystem 1, two types of LH. Light harvesting complex within the photosystem 1, two discrete photochemical light harvesting complexes. Photochemical light harvesting complex, photosystem 1 and photosystem 2, PS2. These are named in the sequence of their discovery and not in the sequence in which they function during the light reaction. The light harvesting complexes are made up of hundreds of pigments. Made up of hundreds of pigments. Molecule bound to protein. Bound to protein. Light harvesting complex. Complexes are made up of hundreds of pigments molecule bound to protein. LHCs are made up of hundreds of pigments molecule bound to proteins. Each photosystem has all the pigments except one molecule of chlorophyll. All pigment. Yes, all pigments, all pigment, okay? Except one molecule of chlorophyll A, forming the light harvesting system, also called, okay, forming a light harvesting system, also called antenna. Each photosystem has all the pigment except one molecule of chlorophyll A, forming a light harvesting system, also called antenna. forming a light harvesting system. Harvesting system called antenna. Photosystem more efficient way. Each photosystem has all the pigments except one molecule of chlorophyll A, forming a light harvesting photon. Harvesting complex are made up of hundreds of pigment molecules bound to protein. Light harvesting system. It's pigment molecule bound to proteins. Each photosystem has all the pigment. इतना अजीब क्यों लग रहा है? In photosystem 2, the reaction center chlorophyll A. In photosystem 2, the reaction center chlorophyll A absorbs 680 nanometer wavelength of red light, causing electron to become excited and jump into an orbit farther from the atomic nucleus. The electrons are picked up by electron acceptor phaophytin, which passes them to electron transport system consisting of cytochromes. First step PS2. Photosystem 2. Photosystem 2. PS2. Photosystem 2. Reactions into chlorophyll A absorbs. A. Center. Six 80 nanometer. Meter. Electron becomes excited and jump to an orbit farther from atomic nucleus. Electron electron excitation. Electron acceptor. By phaophytin. Phaophytin. Cytochromes. Cytochromes. reaction center for your vitamin cytochrome. Cytochrome. This movement of electron is downhill. And let's say electron transport phaeophyton, then again electron transport system. Okay. This moment of electron is downhill in terms of oxidation reduction or redox potential scale. Downhill movement of electron. Downhill movement of electron. The moment of electron is downhill in terms of downhill movement of electron. When electron pass from primary acceptor phaeophyton. Electron acceptor phaeophyton. PHAE phaeophyton to ETS phaeophyton to ETS electron transport system. Okay. This movement of electron is downhill. गुस्सा मत करो please. When electron pass from electron acceptor phaeophyton to ETS electron transport system cytochromes. Consisting of cytochromes. This movement of electron is downhill. Oxidation. In terms of oxidation reduction or redox potential scale. From electron acceptor phaeophyton to ETS electron. The electron pass from electron acceptor phaeophyton. 5 बबल हो चुके हैं ऑलरेडी. मैंने बोला था ना इस बार मेरा माइंड बहुत घूमेगा. 30 मिनट भी नहीं हुआ है, अभी भी 3 मिनट बचा है, फिर भी 5 बबल आ चुके हैं. In terms of oxidation reduction and redox potential scale, the electron are not used up as they pass through the electron transport chain. This movement of electron is downhill in terms of an oxidation reduction or redox potential scale. In terms of oxidation reduction or redox potential scale, downhill movement of electron. movement of electron is downhill in terms of oxidation, reduction, or redox potential skill. Redox potential skill, oxidation, reduction. The electrons are not used up as they pass through the electron transport system. Not used up. Not used up as they pass through the UTS. That are passed on to the pigment of photosystem now. Yes, one. This one. The reaction control of PS1 are also excited. Electrons in the reaction center of PS1 are also excited when they receive red light of 700 nanometer. Receives electron in reaction center receives the red light when electron in reaction center receives red light of 700 nanometer. It's excited. Electron in the reaction center of PS1. Electrons in the reaction center of PS1 are also excited. मर जाए वो सब, भाड़ में जाए। क्यों आ रहा है मुझे वो बार बार चीज दिमाग में? When electron in the reaction center receives light of 700 nanometer. Simultaneously, electrons in the reaction center of PS1 are also excited when they receive a red light of 700 nanometer, wavelength 700 nanometer, and are transferred to another acceptor molecule that has a greater redox potential. Electrons in the reaction center of PS1 are also excited red light receives red light of 700 nanometer wavelength. Transferred to another acceptor. that are passed on to the pigment for photosystem 1. Simultaneously, electrons in the reaction center of PS1 are excited. And are transferred to another acceptor molecular redox potential. Simultaneously, electrons in the reaction center of PS1 are also excited when they receive a red light. When an electron in the reaction center receives red light of 700 nanometer, electron get excited and transferred to another acceptor molecule having greater redox potential. Okay, these electrons then are moved downhill again. To a molecule of energy rich downhill again. This time to a molecule of energy rich NADP+. Energy rich molecule NADP+. The electron then are moved again, this time to a molecule energy rich NADP+. The addition of this electron reduces NADP+ to electron NADP H plus H plus. The electron reduces NADP plus to this full screen transfer of electron from PS2 up to इसमें। मुझे नोटिफिकेशन आ गया है, आई थिंक चार्ज नहीं है करके। ओ शुभम, तुम हो? तुम्हारा वाईफाई वापस से आ गया? मुझे लगा तुम आज के सेशन में नहीं हो, क्योंकि पहले भी नहीं थे ना, कुछ बोल ही नहीं रहे थे। मुझे बाहर जाने का दिल नहीं कर रहा है। वैसे ब्रेक टाइम में मुझे बाहर रिफ्रेश होने के लिए जाना ज़रूरी है, लेकिन मुझे नहीं जाने का दिल कर रहा है। अच्छा, मंथ के पूरे मंथ के लिए कराया? अच्छा, तभी तो। यार मुझे बाहर जाना है, लेकिन फिर से वो लोग मिलेंगे तो मुझे और ज़्यादा गुस्सा आएगा, तो मैं नहीं जाना चाहती। एक क्षण। 7 days के लिए, ओके। जेब्रोनिक्स, जेब्रोनिक्स व्हाट सब लोग दुआ कर देना कि मेरे साथ अब कोई कांड ना हो कि मैं फिर से बाहर जा रही हूँ। Not good. It does. See? Finger move. Is it fine? नहीं, ये क्या बोल रहा है मुझे पता है। जब हम लोग ना एक फिंगर से स्पेक्स को पीछे पीछे क्या बोलते हैं इसे, पुश करते हैं ना, तो ऐसा लगता है कि हम लोग मिडल फिंगर यूज़ कर रहे हैं। तो ये वो बोलना चाह रहा होगा। लेकिन मैं इंडेक्स फिंगर यूज़ करती हूँ, भले ही देखने में वैसा दिख रहा होगा। Break over.